The Able to Care podcast is sponsored by Able Training Support Limited, who build partnerships with organisations to develop confidence and competence in their team to promote positive outcomes for all. Find the link in the description. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Able to Care podcast. It's me, Andy Baker, your host. So on today's session, I thought I'd talk about a little bit. I've just recently done a specific bespoke course for a customer. And I thought some of the stuff that got brought up might be useful for us to talk about. And I think there's potentially a couple of episodes after this particular course that I did. It's a customer I've been working with for many years. They've had some particular challenges with some complex individuals within their care that's resulted in some of the staff losing confidence and feeling overwhelmed and finding the whole situation difficult. And I completely empathize with them on that, in that it can always feel like you're against the grain, that you're always, when you've got a particularly complex case, it may be the case that the resources, the circumstances, we're not there yet. But there is often external organizations or agencies that are kind of going, well, you should have figured it by now, even if maybe it's a little bit more complex than that. So we did some specific training. And I looked at a number of incident reports and things like that related to the circumstances I had. And a few things I picked out that then we did some specific training on. So some of you listening may be aware that I deliver an awful lot of training around behavior management. It's one of my passions and my kind of specialist area. And I've written a book on it that comes out in August. Quick name drop there, called Targeting the Positive, with Jessica Kingsley Publishers. So yeah, do check out. I think it's available for pre-sale now, but I don't know when you're listening to this, so it'll be available from August. There's all about behavior management. So this is my specialism, my passion. And I've ingrained, or I've introduced a number of different concepts and principles into what I teach, and the concepts that I have and the systems that I have. And one of those is, especially within children's services, I tend to use Dan Hughes' model of the PACE model. That's built on or connected with therapeutic parenting as well. I'm not going to go into details about the PACE model or anything like that. I'll let you guys kind of search that out, although there's a lot of stuff within what I do that kind of connects over. One of the things that I noticed in the incident reports, because I know this organization uses PACE specifically, that it wasn't really mentioned in any of the interactions, or I couldn't see any evidence of it within the interaction. So I thought that's what I'd draw some attention to in the episode today. So PACE, for those of you who don't know, stands for playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and empathy. And PACE isn't a behavior management system. It is essentially an attitude of that the staff or the organization should be enacting or engaging with on a day-to-day basis, not just when a child is in meltdown or behavioral dysregulation. It should be kind of utilized all the time. It is no good within an incident report just putting, I used PACE, or no matter what the principle is. So if it's in the NHS, I used LEAP's model. I used the spell framework. I used the DAPA approach. Whatever it is, there is no point in just labeling the acronym or the model or whatever, because that's meaningless unless you can provide how did you use it? What was the evidence of how you used it? So there wasn't enough descriptor in there to kind of say like how it was implemented, how it was utilized. There were a few occasions as I read through that, yeah, definitely people had really done well and engaged with. And definitely any organization, it's easy to pick out. In hindsight, it's always easy to pick out the negative. But I did try and make sure I picked out the positive as well. Some great interactions in there, and staff did some amazing jobs and handled some very difficult situations. The one thing that stuck out to me, and then we looked at improving, and again, I'm always learning as well, is the principle of empathy. And I've done another episode on empathy another time, but the acceptance part of the PACE model, I think, is, for me, one of the most difficult aspects. When we are looking at acceptance, we are accepting the person unconditionally for who they are. We don't judge them as a human being. That doesn't mean we have to like their behavior, but we do have to accept their thoughts and feelings. So when we say we don't have to accept their behavior, I don't have to accept being punched in the face, but I can accept the fact that you're angry and that I've upset you. There's a big difference between the two. But acceptance, I think, is difficult because acceptance is that, one, I need to overcome my prejudices, my values, beliefs, my attitude, what I think is right, what I think is wrong, how you should and shouldn't behave, my scripts and all these kind of things. I've got to be able to overcome all of those to just allow myself to accept how you feel and how you think and who you are within that particular moment. This isn't just around looked after children or working with the therapeutic models. Whenever we're dealing with emotional vulnerability, emotional dysregulation with adults, children, whatever, acceptance should be a huge part. We teach this in dementia care as well, exactly the same, that if I've got a person who's disorientated and I'm going, they're saying, I want my mum, it's not saying that I have to accept that their mum is real and they are, but I can accept that's how they're feeling, that they believe their mum should be picking him up. So why would I then argue with their thoughts and their feelings? We focus on that. We don't need to correct or tell them what they should and shouldn't be doing or what is and what isn't true. And this is the same across the board, universally. So one of the phrases that the staff had experienced from one of the particular young people within their setting was the "you don't care about me. Nobody cares about me." There's an ongoing narrative. Now, the instinct with that, and I completely understand, is of course we care about you. If I go, "You don't care about me, nobody cares about me." Now, if I'm just saying it, maybe, but if I genuinely feel it in that moment, and it may only be in that moment, maybe rationally, I know you do, but emotionally, I'm feeling like you don't care about me or nobody cares about me. And maybe it's because I struggle to care about myself or I don't know why I'm likable and therefore I can't believe that you actually like me. We have to kind of understand these insecurities, these core beliefs, these scripts that we may have about ourselves to be saying something like this rather than it's just attention seeking or whatever our perception, our prejudice might be. But the instinct was to try and make this individual feel better. Of course we care about you. But what you've essentially just said there is those thoughts and feelings you have, that feeling you have that we don't care, that thought you have that we don't care, yeah, they're wrong. To just tell somebody that their thoughts and feelings are wrong, especially for a child or especially for somebody with limited capacity or somebody who's got diminished capacity, you're basically calling them stupid. You're basically telling them they don't understand themselves. You're basically telling them you can't trust your own thoughts and feelings. Now, if I thought I couldn't trust my own thoughts and feelings, that would lead me to feel incredibly anxious. Because if I can't trust me, who can I trust? If I can't trust what I think, who can I trust? What can I believe? What can I trust in this world? If I can't trust my own feelings, that my feelings are correct, what else can I trust? I think, and one of the foundations I always teach in many, many courses and many aspects is that, the opposite to anxiety is trust. If I trust the person I'm with, I trust the environment, if I trust myself, I trust that I can cope, then there's nothing to be anxious about. But that's really hard to overcome if other people are telling me, you can't trust yourself even. You think we don't care, but you're wrong. Now, when you put it into this context, hopefully many of you listening kind of going, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, why do we do that? It comes from a good place. I completely understand that when people are doing this, because you want to make that person feel better. You want to take that person's pain away from them. You want to reassure them that what they're experiencing isn't true. And it's, thoughts and feelings aren't necessarily good guides or pathways to understanding truth. We think incorrect things all the time. We feel incorrect things all the time. But the principle of connection before correction. Sometimes you need to let me have my feelings and give me permission to have my feelings and my thoughts, just so I feel like I'm allowed to feel them. That it's okay for me to feel them. I can trust that those feelings are true, even if the thoughts may not be based on what's going on now. It could be based on certain false bits of information. But sometimes I need you to allow me to have my feelings. So what could we do in that circumstance? Instead of saying, of course we care about you, we'll start off connection before correction, empathize with them. I can't imagine how it must feel to live somewhere you feel like people don't care about you. That must be really hard. So what we're doing there is going, whether you're right, whether you're wrong is irrelevant. If you feel that way, that must be really difficult. Because how would you feel if you were in an environment, let's say you lived in a household where you felt like the person you lived with didn't care about you? And that's the thing, like many of us have been in a circumstance or may have been in a circumstance where, you're at home with a loved one and you go, you're feeling like you're not cared about, or you're feeling like you're not appreciated, or whatever it is you're feeling. And if you went, I'm not feeling appreciated right now, or I'm just not feeling loved, or I'm not feeling cared about, and you get that kind of flipping, well, of course I care about you. How does that make you feel? That doesn't just take the pain away. It doesn't take the thoughts away. It can sometimes still be that earworm still ingraining, burrowing into the brain, the negative thoughts telling you, do they really mean that? Is that really true? Their actions and their words are not matching with each other. So if you put it into those contexts, like, why do we do that to others when we never like it when that's done to us? So what else could we say? One, acknowledging how that must be really hard. Maybe even kind of going and wondering about what it is that's happened that's made you feel like I don't care about you right now. You could even make it self-empathy. I feel really sad because I'm working really hard to make you feel cared for. And obviously I'm just not getting it quite right. And I really want to figure this out so we can, so I can be there for you. You can see how these are, they're all much more not arguing with the thoughts and the feelings. They're much more going into a kind of allowing, validating that, okay, you feel like that. How can we change this? What can we do differently about it? We then kind of explored this, not just on that one phrase, if you don't care about me, but on all sorts of phrases that an individual might throw back at you. Even the, one of the phrases that was come out with, I want to kill you, for instance. And so how can you empathize with that? Because what are the emotions behind that phrase that I want to kill you? With anger, upset, hurt. Okay, commonly behind feelings of anger are feelings of hurt, very commonly. Not always. Sometimes it's you've not met my expectations, or I perceive you as dangerous to me, but often it is a way of masking hurt. So if I'm going, I want to kill you, they probably don't really mean that they actually want you dead, or they never want to see you again, or things like that. They say it, but they don't necessarily mean it. And this is true for like my parents and caregivers and whoever is having this said to them. I'm going to kill you, or I hate you, or whatever it is. So instead, what are the feelings that are behind that? So if it's anger, going, something about me asking you to do that has made you feel so angry. I know that you don't really want to kill me, but I can see how cross I've made you right now. Okay, so you could kind of potentially come back, like focus on the feelings. The feelings are true, even if you know they're not really going to kill you, or the behavior is not appropriate. So we could even go, look, I understand you're upset and I've made you really angry, but you don't need to say things like that. Look, if you want help to overcome this, I'll work with you. So we constantly kind of explore the acceptance of the feelings. A common example I also use with acceptance is the example of a child putting and this is, I've heard this from numerous places, but comes home with a piece of work or a project or a piece of art they've done, and they throw it in front of you, go, I did that today, but it's rubbish. Every parent caregiver's instinct is sometimes let me take that pain away and tell you how I actually think it's really good. Or another one is, why do you think it's rubbish? Why is it really, I'm not keen on the question why, I've learned over the years, because most of us don't always know why we feel the way we do. For those of you who've watched my episode on mental health for men, we talk about that knowing why I'm down or knowing why I feel depressed. Sometimes I don't know why. Maybe I don't know why I don't like that picture. It just didn't meet my expectations. But being able to articulate that, or having to justify that. Maybe it's a really stupid reason that I don't, or I think it's a stupid reason that I don't like that picture. Maybe because I went over the lines on one little bit and I know that's ridiculous in the grand scheme of things and it doesn't really matter, but I feel like I'm let myself down. I feel like I haven't done a good job. So you then telling me what is really good. Again, all you've told me is my thoughts and feelings aren't true. You've invalidated how I feel. And whether it be a child or an adult, doesn't tend to be synonymous with de-escalation and connection. It tends to disconnect. What's the point in expressing anything to you if you just tell me I'm wrong when I express it? Or you make me justify my feelings. You make me bat in my own cage. You make me back up my argument so that you can then tell me I'm right or wrong, or that I'm being silly or I'm not being silly or whatever it is. These are all examples of that lack of acceptance are just really missing the mark. Last one I'll kind of give an example of is, because again, this is one, a lot of these I learned around the therapeutic parenting and the counseling and the training around children. But what I realized when I was doing all the behavioral management stuff is so many of these rules apply to anybody, whether it be a partner, whether it be a friend. Okay. When having those feelings invalidated isn't nice, but we do it to others all the time. So last one, I don't like such and such anymore, or I've fallen out with such and such. This is a parent one. Your child tells you, I'm not friends with Billy, or I had a fight with Billy at school. And then you go, what happened? Now, do you say what happened because you genuinely want to be able to empathize and accept the way they're feeling and thinking? Or are you asking what happened so you can hear their story to then tell them whether they were right or whether they were wrong in their outcomes, in their perception, or in their behavior? And I know which one it often is. Not always, but I know which one it often is, because we're constantly in that mentality that I need to correct, I need to teach you how to be, I need to make you better. We fall into these scripts, or we fall into the parental. For those of you who are interested in transaction analysis, we become the parent child because I'm okay and I need to teach you how to be okay. So we become the critical parent. All of these are kind of, all these different systems refer to exactly the same thing, where I need to teach you how to be, which is not acceptance, it's correction. So all the time, when you hear the mantra of connection before correction, I want you to start thinking about acceptance. That doesn't mean you have to accept the behavior, but you can then accept the way the person thinks and feels. And by allowing yourself to accept their thinking, their thoughts and their feelings, you will find it's kind of life-changing a little bit, because it allows us to build better connections, better interactions, better relationships as a result of that. So I hope you found that useful. I do tend to go around the world a little bit, but hopefully you can pick out the little bits that you found useful from that little section. And I think I'll do the other bit I went through on a different episode. But that was a little bit about acceptance.